Good evening, everyone. Um, Welcome to 5 Questions with AdiDev Press. And today we're going to be live with Sharina Shah right here in Singapore. Sharina is a Singapore-born Punjabi Sikh married to a British-born Gujarati Jain. She's lived in Dubai for 10 years and she hosted her very own TV show, lifestyle and fashion TV program in Dubai. And she's back in Singapore now, and she's running a memory enrichment program for preschoolers, which she's going to tell us a little bit about. And she's also the mother of two lovely young girls, and we want to talk to her today about parenting in her home. I'm just going to add her now. And give me a minute. She should be joining now. Wait a minute. Hi, Sharina. How are you?
Hi, can you see me?
I can see you.
Great.
Am I clear?
Yes, very clear. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction.
Thank you so much for making the time to be here today. I know it's
Not
hard
at
with
all.
two little children and
Not
work
at all. You're
in
fast
general.
asleep. Yeah, I know what you mean. No problem at all. Happy to be here.
Such a pleasure, and thanks to your cousin Gulshan for introducing us. I can't
Yeah,
believe we're in Singapore and we're meeting for the first time on Instagram.
yeah, yes, yeah. Nice to meet you finally.
So today I want to talk to you about parenting and your two
Sure.
lovely young children. And mostly the topic of our conversation was raising children and your culture and how you teach them about your culture. So first of all, I
Sure.
want to talk to you about your home, which is made up of two cultures. You being a Punjabi Sikh and your husband being a Gujarati Jain. And how do you balance? It's a big question.
Yeah.
Different cultures with and languages, because I think both of you would be speaking with your own parents, Gujarati and Punjabi. So
Yeah.
how does it all work in
Sure.
your world?
Sure. So obviously, Sehal is Gujarati Jain, and I'm Punjabi Sikh. And I think we've both been brought up in homes where our family are quite religious and very into their culture. But Sehal obviously went to Gujarati school and he reads and writes Gujarati. He actually speaks a lot more Gujarati at home with his family still, and sometimes to his cousins in Kenya as well. As for me, I did the same. I went to Punjabi school, learned a lot about my culture, and my family is quite religious as well. But I think, Sehil left home when he was a lot younger, and so did I. And we actually met in Abu Dhabi. And I think when we left, we both sort of evolved to become more spiritual people as opposed to religious people, not forgetting our culture, right? We definitely brought our cultures with us. And I think, when we met, it was very interesting because, being Indian as well, I think there's a lot of things that are very similar. But Jain is it's a very different religion to Sikhism, right? So we sort of learned a lot about each other's culture, and it sort of it made us different people along the way, in very good ways, I would say. But being very spiritual, I think that's how our household has always been, right? Because I guess spirituality, has the fundamentals of every religion,
Yes.
where it's kindness, compassion, just do good and be good. And I think things started to change when we had our two little girls, right? And that's when we said, hey, you know what? We need to actually teach them a bit of their culture, their identity. And that's when we started saying that, okay, you know what, let's bring in a bit of our culture in there. We never forgot that little prayer that we do that our parents taught us, right? So for me, it's obviously the Japji set before you go to bed. Right, it's always something nice to sort of fall back on as well, right? When, just before you go to bed, something to thank God for. When you're upset, it's something to fall back on. And Sehil has his, Nauka mantra as well, which is this Jain prayer. So that's something that we said we definitely want both the kids to know. We take the kids to obviously the temples, the Gurdwara, and very close to home, we've got the Jain temple there as well. But I think that's how we're sort of incorporating. But we are actually, trying to get the kids to be very spiritual at the same time, right?
Yes.
My little one, who is 2.5 years old, she watches my mom does a bit of meditation in the morning, and she sits down and closes her eyes and say, "Why am I doing this?" Right? And I said, "You're doing this because you just want to be in peace, right? And when you're in peace, you can sort of see, brighter things of what you want to do." They may not get it at this age, but I feel like kids are like sponges. Whatever you say to them right now, it's something that will, it will fall through moving forward. For in terms of languages, good question, because I do not speak Punjabi at all at home. We never have, because my mom's from Indonesia. If we
Mm-hmm.
spoke another language, is actually Indonesian at home. Siho does still speak Gujarati to his family. And when I'm in the UK, I have to learn a bit of Gujarati because that's why I speak to his nanny, his grandmother, and to some of his families as well, like his older aunties and uncles. And I mean, the family still makes fun of me a lot when I speak Gujarati, but I'm sort of getting there. So I think in our household, we teach the kids a lot more Gujarati, right? So even small things like, we say roti, they say rotli, and we sort of use those words, rotli, and, teach our little one how to say hello to, Nani when she's on the phone, Kemcho, and this and that. And she loves it because she knows it's a different language, and she's speaking a different language to someone else. So that's basically where we're at, and what we're actually teaching Gianna at the moment. Sienna is way too small. My little one, she's about 1.5.
Yes.
But yeah, she'll probably follow that path as well.
Yeah, when they hear it around them, then they just start picking it up.
Yeah, sure.
And it's nice with the FaceTime and all that the kids can interact with the grandparents and
Yes, completely.
yeah,
Yeah,
come
yeah,
in and
and yeah. So we obviously we obviously haven't seen my in-laws for a long time due to the pandemic. Seals from the UK, and the last time they saw their grandchild was when she was about 1.5. Before she was 2, and they haven't met the little one, but it hasn't stopped us from logging on to all these online calls and chatting to them every single day actually. So yeah, the kids know the routine. After dinner, it's talking to grandparents, catching up, and then go to bed, which I love. I think I think that bond and closeness is so important.
so you're
Yeah.
very blessed to have your parents in Singapore. Tell us
Yeah.
how what role they play in teaching the children about the religion and culture, and especially I think grandparents are involved normally in passing on those traditions and things like that. So, what are some things
Sure.
that you do with what the kids do with the grandparents here?
Sure. So yeah, I am very blessed to be back in Singapore. Having to raise my kids here. I think that's one of the reasons, because I was in Dubai for 10 years prior to being pregnant. And that's one of the biggest reasons that I actually moved back to Singapore, because I just wanted, my kids to be close to grandparents. There are some things that I can teach my kid about religion and culture, but it's not the same if it's, from the grandparents, right? So it's just small things where, just stories that my mom used to tell me growing up, which is Guru Nanak stories, stories about Sikhism, stories about Guru Gobind Singh, and I love all these stories. So sometimes my mom would say, "Okay, Gianna, come, I'm telling you a story about this," and honestly, I jump in bed as well. I'm like, I want to hear this again, little things like that that teaches her about culture, a lot of compassion, a lot of kindness, which I love, because a lot of things that she teaches Gianna, I see her doing some things the next day. Right. One thing which I wanted to actually tell you about, there was a story about Guru Nanak, and one of someone with him saying, I wanted to get water, for example, right? And he went up on this hill, and there's this whole story. I won't
No,
go
no,
go
please.
into it. But and I actually went to this place in Pakistan as well, in Lahore, where Guru Nanak actually put his hand up on the stone, and his fingerprints were on it. And after the story was done, Gianna asked me, "Oh, why didn't he give water to someone that was asking for water many times?" And I said, "Oh, some people are just maybe some people are just not nice, right?" So she said, "Oh, okay." And then the garbage collector was outside my house one day, and he was, he came out. He was carrying all the stuff, and he looked really tired. And she said, "Mom, can we give him water?" And I love that. I was like, "Wow, right? Is it the story? Is it like what is it, right?" And I realized that I put two and two together, but it's sort of learning compassion, and she just learned it from that one story. So I feel like just talking to your kids about real events that has happened, and I think our religion and culture, every religion teaches us so much, and
Yes.
the underlying thing is the same, right? Do good, be good. So yeah, that's something that my mom does, with the kids, and then obviously pre-COVID, it was a lot about going to the Gurdwara and doing sevas and all of that. And for my in-laws as well, my dad-in-law and my mom-in-law, when they used to visit, and Gianna was very little, they will do a small prayer outside of the room. We had this landing area, and Gianna will always go and sit down, and she'll ring this bell. Until today, she's ringing that bell, saying, "Are we doing a prayer? When are we going to ring that bell again?" And then it sort of tells us as well that, what, we need to continue this because the kids are enjoying it.
Yes.
The kids are loving it. And, I think our kids are teaching us things these days as well and reminding us that, hey, you know what, I like this, so why are we not doing it? So yeah, so the grandparents definitely, I mean, obviously we miss our in-laws not being here for a while, but we have taught Gianna the Moon Mantra, which is the Sikh prayer that she does every night, as well as the Jain prayer, which she actually does both really well. And I would definitely say that's thanks to the grandparents.
Wonderful. That's really wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe I should
yeah.
do bedtime with the grandparents on the phone, but I don't have them with
So,
because I still remember that every time at bedtime, like those 4 or 5 prayers, and even now, you can't fall asleep. You remember those prayers that
yeah, it
your
stays
parents
with
have
you. And
done.
sometimes it puts you to sleep as well, right? You keep saying it. So I remember my mom used to say, if you can't fall asleep, just say that prayer like 4 or 5 times and then you fall asleep. And yeah, it's something that I do with my daughter these days as well. But I think, yeah, no, I think it's beautiful that, they have that. It's important to have that with them.
Becomes like the memory of the body, kind of.
It does. It does. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Any specific aspects of both the religions that you really want your children to continue and to remember and to learn?
Yeah, so for me, I think, obviously for Sikhism, I think, one of the biggest things in Sikhism is selfless service. And I'm a big believer in that, right? And I think all Sikhs growing up in their households, it's just our culture, right? You see it in temples, you see it everywhere else. And, growing up in my house as well, mom does a lot of charity for orphanages, and she always believes in food for food, right? So, in terms of the Sikhism part, I definitely want, our kids to go, down that route where they believe in selfless service, where they want to share, they want to
Mm.
give, and they want to provide, what they can for others who are in need. So that's definitely something I want to, have them take home from this. In terms of Jainism, ahimsa for sure, non-violence, which I absolutely learned to love, and that's the reason that I've turned vegetarian as well, on my own accord. And my kids are being raised vegetarian. I just love how beautiful that is. Compassion towards animals. I think that's where we start. We should start as well, as human beings. And I remember a story very clearly, which I loved. My mom-in-law came to visit me and my husband in London. This was before we had kids. And outside of the house, there was this train of ants, trying to come into the house. And my first thought is, get the bygone spray, someone, right? And we need to get the ants away from the house. And my mom-in-law said very beautifully, she said, no, let's not do that. And she got some flour out, and she created a path. And she said, we don't have to kill them, right? They just sort of move the path. And and maybe this was about 7 years ago, and that actually took me back and said, "Oh wow, right? We can do that. Why are we not doing that? Why are we doing the other thing, right?" I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll still take my bygone spray out when I see a cockroach, but I'm getting there, and I love that. I definitely want my kids to be that, right? It's not easy. because it's something very tough to do as well. But I think ahimsa is something that I just love everything that revolves around that compassion, kindness towards every being there is out there. Yeah.
I love what you said about ahimsa and kindness. And one of our books, I wish I had it with me to show it to you, is Kindness with Mahavira. And it talks about
Yeah.
that essential aspect of kind. I mean, that Mahavir believed that each living thing, whether it's large or small or tiny, has
Exactly.
an equal soul, a soul that has of equal
Sure.
value. And therefore, you should be
Sure.
kind to
Yeah.
all. And then where a little girl is picking up an ant in the leaf and then putting it
Oh,
aside where
yeah.
it's safe. I would have loved to show
Yeah,
you.
and I guess we all, yeah, I would love to see that actually. I would love to get that book for my kids actually. I think that would teach them a lot. Yeah, I guess, that's something that's just, we all want our kids to, have compassion with, every being out there. And I think it would just be great to see them grow up, hopefully to follow that direction, and see how it goes. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about Seva and how you introduce that to your children. I know the aspect of Seva that everybody does in the Gurudwara, where there's a langar and you serve and you help out. But outside of the Gurudwara, how do you teach them about Seva and helping out, the selfless service that you talked about? Can you give us some
Sure.
examples
Uh,
of what
yeah,
doing?
sure. So before COVID, we used to go to a temple quite a bit. So even when we were younger, it's a weekly thing that we do. When I was in Dubai, I did it every week as well, actually. So we try to go to a temple every week. We try to go to our Jain temple as well. That's not far from home every week. And at the Sikh temple as well, there is a lot of seva, right? So you give out food, you can do other sevas like cleaning juttis and all of that. And that's something that I've actually, always brought Jenna to the Gurdwara, and she loved doing it. I think it's just that fun thing where, for her right now, she doesn't really understand the concept of seva so much at this time. She was 1.5, or a bit more than that. And for her, just giving food, laughing at people, talking to people. But I guess you got to start somewhere, right? And as they get older, it's being familiar with what they did before, right? And so we used to do that a lot. And then obviously COVID happened. We weren't going out so much. I've come from a home, as I said before, my mom, has done a lot of charities, and a lot of the charities she does is going to orphanages, moral homes, and actually cooking for people. She just believes in food for food. And when COVID happened, there was a lot of people, like a lot of these organizations weren't getting enough charities as they were getting. And she said to me as well, hey, let's do something, right? So we started this thing called Dishes and Dips, where, we have this cooking class, and we raise whatever we get from the cooking class, the proceeds goes to charities. So I get Gianna involved in a lot of that charities, whereby we get the food, and we pack it up together, we put it in a box, and then in a bag, and then we go to these places, and I take her with me, just to show her, and I obviously explain to her, just to show her that this is what we're doing for people. And I think that itself has actually taught her to stop wasting food, which she was doing for for a while, right? She'll eat a little bit, like, no, I'm full, I don't want to eat it. So then I explained to her as well, like, it's important, right? We're giving this food to, orphanages, and we're giving this food to, moral homes of people who need it. And so I take her with me, and she loves it. She gives it out, and, trying to tell her that, this is what Seva is. And then there was one day where we were on our way to a moral home, and we had all these bags. We're carrying these bags, and Jenna said, "Oh, I want to give this box to the bird there." Which is a bird, just a random pigeon on the floor.
Mm.
And I said, no, we can't give this box of food. Firstly, I'll go to jail for feeding the birds in Singapore. And we can't just do that, right? And then she said, yeah, but then the bird's hungry as well. Then that's when I said, oh, you know what? This is actually a lesson that I'm learning from my daughter, right? Speaking about telling her about animals to begin with and all of that. So then I started contacting animal shelters. And
Yes.
it came to my knowledge that a lot of these animal shelters most of them are only having those pre-packed foods, and they need to get fresh foods, and they don't actually have a lot of people bringing these fresh foods. So then I did my, my fair share of research, and one of the things that we're supporting right now are animal shelters as well. Just getting pumpkins and whatever nutritious foods we can get to them, and that's where I sort of see my daughter unraveling from whatever that I've been teaching her as well. That yeah, you're right. I keep telling you to be, kind to animals. Why are we not actually doing this for animals as well? And it goes back to being kind to any being. Yeah.
You
So
don't
so so
realize,
that's basically the natural way for it.
sorry, I was saying that in Singapore, you don't realize that there are animals that need to be, taken care of because you don't
Yes.
see that many strays.
Yeah.
And I had a friend
Yes.
who ran a rescue dog shelter, and I was like, "Are there dogs that needed to be rescued in
Yeah.
Singapore?" And she said, "There are.
Yes.
People
Yeah.
abandon and they move, and they need to be taken care of." And it's so nice to see people take up
Yeah.
something like that, devote their time to.
Definitely. Yeah,
And
definitely. I think you're right. In Singapore, there's a lot of poverty that we don't see. And when you sort of go down the rabbit hole and do your fair share of research, you realize that, oh my gosh, like there's so much of people that are in need, that actually need help. And I think we all have to sort of do our part and start somewhere. If not, when are we ever going to start, right?
it's lovely that you're teaching the kids so young about it, showing them, how
Yeah.
to do the same in real life. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. I'm trying and definitely still learning.
So tell us a little bit about the memory enrichment program that you've started, the mnemonics program, and if you could give us a little bit of tips to mothers watching the show on how they can use these
Sure.
tips to make their children retain stuff about their culture that they are trying to teach them.
Yeah, sure, sure. Okay, yeah, so this was actually started and founded by my brother, Santi. And he created this curriculum, because he said, why are we not teaching memory techniques to kids, right? In school, they teach you how to read, they teach you how to write, they don't teach you how to memorize. And a lot of these memory techniques that we're teaching kids are these techniques are a lot of it is retention, right? So it's not something where, there are a lot of memory pieces here where they do flashcards and things like that. So we have about 13 different techniques that we try to incorporate and, use for these kids. And one of it, which I'm quite glad that you mentioned about religion, is one of our themes is actually revolved around different religion logos. And I was actually very impressed by this class that I taught because there's a student who is 5 years old. She can tell you 13 different religion logos within that one class that we taught her. And for me, it was interesting because there was a boy that came into class and I said, what's your religion? And he said, we are all Christians, right? Because a lot of kids don't know, right? They just feel like, okay, there's only one religion, and and this is I'm Sikh, and everyone is maybe Sikh, right, or something else. So when we started teaching them the different religion logos and the different symbols, you can see one kid saying, "Oh, that's me, I'm Hindu. Oh, that's me, I'm Sikh. That's me, I'm Islam," which is beautiful because this kid started having conversations, right?
Yes.
Like, "Oh, what do you mean? This is your symbol? Wow, that's your symbol." And every kid walked out of that class really proud, right? Because we give them these cards to take home, and they're like, "This is me. This is my religion," right? And some of them actually don't know what the symbol looks like.
Yes.
And I love that, right? Because we had a call from a parent after saying that, oh, you know what, my kid's actually very interested to say, "Mommy, can you show me what a mosque looks like when we pass by? Can you show me what church looks like?" And as important as these techniques are, I feel like things like this as well, going back to our whole conversation about religion. It's just so important for kids to, understand and acknowledge that there are other religions out there, right? To create that respect and that love from the beginning of time. So I feel I'm going to actually give you an example. I printed something out. So I feel maybe parents, I mean, we have a lot of techniques and these are preschoolers, so we really break it down for them. But I can do something really quick. And maybe parents could teach their child their own religion logos, right? And maybe I can start with something. This is, I don't know if anyone knows what this is, but this is Shinto,
Mm-hmm.
right? Can you see it quite clearly?
Yes, I can see it. Yeah.
Right. So what we get our students to do is, so obviously a preschool or anyone that's looking at this would be like, oh, what is that? Is that, a place or what is it? So we first get them to identify, right? Okay, so we tell them the name, this is Shinto. So to a
Mm.
preschooler, this is going to be, what, Shinto? I've never heard that word before. It's just a sound. So we get them to break up the words because for them, they're a lot younger. For us, it's very easy to break up words in our head. So we get them to break up the word, the Shinto, first word Shin, second word toe. Let's create that Shinto, that picture of Shin and toe into an image, right? So we tell them a story. Okay, for example, just imagine a big chin, right? Because shin sounds like chin. If it was an adult that I'm teaching, I would say shin, right? Your leg, your shin, because you have that in your vocabulary to find things like
Doesn't
big
know what shin is.
skin over here, right? So just imagine a huge.
Sorry, we're kind of losing you. Your connection. Yes.
Fall, I'm gonna fall, I'm gonna fall, I'm so heavy. And all of a sudden he falls flat onto the ground and he sees that his toe has swollen up because he hurt his toe. So all of a sudden his toe has swollen up and became so big, right? So when they look at what is to visualize the story. For example, if you get a book of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, if you don't tell the child the story, when they look at that cover again, they'll be like, oh, what is this? It's this girl with curls in her hair, and that's bears, right? But if I open the book and I tell them it's Goldilocks and the Three Bears, then when they see that book even 2 years later, because it's all retention, they'll be like, oh yeah, I know that. That's Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So it's all about, this is one of the techniques that we teach where it's, a visual image. So it's all about stories around a logo. So maybe parents could, I think it'll be a fun game for parents and kids to sort of, do this at home where if you're Sikh and then you have the Sikh symbol and try to create a story around it, or, Islam or Hinduism, so on and so forth.
Very interesting, and it makes challenges parents to think and be creative.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
No, I don't think anyone's going to forget what this is.
I'm going to have to call you for some stories for the Hindu symbols.
Yeah. So yeah,
It
so
sounds
that's basically what we do, and we are moving online now, and yeah, so we're just trying to pivot everything over. But yeah, it's a great technique for kids. I believe in it strongly because I use it in my day-to-day life. I use it with my kids, and it absolutely is. Yeah, it's a great technique to have.
can't wait to call
Yeah.
you later and book my
Yes,
preschooler
please
in.
do. Please do. Please do.
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
So those were my 5 questions. Thank you so much for being here.
Perfect. Thank
It
you.
was
Not
a
at all.
pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And yeah, we'd like to actually say to, friends and family of mine that are watching as well. I absolutely love what Chitwan does with AdiDev Press. I think you have a lot of great books for
Thank you.
kids. And I would actually love to get some myself. I love the fact that you have different books for different cultures as well. So Service with Guru Nanak, Kindness with Mahavira. I think these are just great books to have, tell bedtime stories to your kids, learn about different cultures. So yeah, it's great what you're doing. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you. All right. Take care. Have a nice
All
evening.
right. Thanks. Bye. Thank you. Thank you everyone for watching. Bye bye.